Question number 69. How can the Penelope's web be turned into a metaphorical expression according to the passage? Now it's another direct question. We have to go back to the passage. It's in the penultimate or last but one paragraph. Like many other great principles, it suffered from its disciples. Disciples mean students, followers, and furnished its own refutation when the web of Penelope was analyzed into a metaphor of the rules of formal logic, the warp representing the premises, and the woof the conclusion. Now, warp basically means to distort or something out of shape, so it's a verb, and woof, it has two pronunciation. Woof is the bark, and woof talks about the fabric. Now, Queen Penelope was the wife of Odysseus, who was the central character of Homer's Odyssey. Was the king of Ithaca, which is a Greek state, and he went and fought in the Trojan War. So, Queen Penelope in traditional Greek mythology is a symbol of marital faithfulness or fidelity. She waited 20 years for her husband, and the web was a cloth that she was stitching for the burial. It was a burial shroud for Odysseus's elderly father, and she told all her suitors who were forcing her to choose among them and marry somebody and not wait for her husband. So it was a kind of trick that she devised to delay them. And what she used to do was, in the daytime she would stitch that fabric, and then at night, unknown to others, she would go and detach some of the interwoven patterns, so that next day she had to start from the beginning again. She continued to do it for 3 to 4 years, and finally she was revealed, and that's the story of Queen Penelope. To answer the question, you did not have all these prior knowledge, but of course reading never hurts, and stock of knowledge always is a great asset for any CAT candidate. Now, here what it means is, like many other great principles, it suffered. It means the theory, which has been mentioned in the previous paragraph, which talks about weakness is clearly pointed out by Plato. So, and all we are talking about is this tendency to look for metaphors and hidden meanings. Now, what happened was it furnished its own refutation. So, when they were trying to analyze, Queen Penelope's web, they contradicted themselves. Now here the warp represents the premise and the woof represents the conclusion. So question number 69, let's look at the option. By interpreting it as template for formal logic. Now in fact they say that it can't be a template, because template means some kind of an ideal, some kind of a structure based on which you can derive the other logic. But in the paragraph the author has used this negatively. The author says that this is a theory which contradicted itself. So A cannot be the answer. B says by interpreting it as a warped representation of premises. Now warped basically means distorted. The warp that is mentioned in the paragraph is the literal warp which was there in Penelope's web. But if I look at this sentence, it is twisted. It says that the representation of the premises was distorted, but it was not. It was self-contradictory, but that was not the premise, that was the total logic. Hence, B can be called a twisted option. C says by interpreting it as a set of premises and conclusion. Now, that is correct. And in option A, of course, instead of template, if the word metaphor would have been there or metaphorical would have been there, then that would have been correct. So the answer to question number 69 is C.